Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Duc Ong with Tri-City Equity Group. With me is my co-host, Vince Giddings. Today we have Jorge Abreu on the show. Jorge is the CEO of Elevate Commercial Investment Group and J&T Construction, based out of Dallas, Texas. Along with his partners, he owns over 2,100 units on the GP side and over 2,400 units on the LP side. Prior to multifamily, he has wholesaled over 200 single-family homes, fixed and flipped over 150 homes, and developed over $20 million in ground-up construction. Jorge, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So how did you get started in your journey to earn passive cash flow?
Started about 15 years ago. I was studying to be electrical engineer. I knew I didn't want to do that, even though I was studying to do that. And I started looking elsewhere. I had the urge to own my own business, but I didn't know what kind of business. And started doing some research and studying wealthy individuals, and it kept coming back to real estate. So started doing some more research into real estate investing, and finally started doing some deals on the side. By that time, I had graduated and I was working at UPS in the engineering department. Finally did enough, at that time, single family wholesales and fix and flips to where I felt comfortable leaving the W-2 and doing real estate investing full time. And then in that journey, I really liked doing the fix and flips, and I wanted to scale that. And that's when I decided to open the construction company, because I was having trouble either finding good contractors or enough contractors to kind of keep up. And that's when I decided to bring it in-house. Started doing quite a bit of quantity. And then about 4.5 years ago or so, I kind of looked back at what I had done, and everything I had was very transactional. You know, I couldn't just stop, like you mentioned, passive income. I didn't have a lot of passive income. You know, a lot of it relied on me and my time, and that wasn't what I had set out to do. So kind of stepped back and started making some adjustments, bringing in a team I could rely on, giving others more responsibility. And at the same time, I was introduced to multifamily syndications. And before that, I didn't know that you can syndicate a multifamily property. So that had never crossed my mind. You know, I've done some small multifamily. At that point, I was also doing some new development projects. But to purchase these 100+ unit properties, I thought you just needed millions and millions. So as soon as I was introduced to that, I mean, I started doing my research. I started gaining the knowledge and mainly on the underwriting and just understanding the business, right? Because it's not single family. You're not purchasing a business. You're purchasing a property. With multifamily, you're doing both. It's a property, but it's a business. And once I felt comfortable with that and started looking for deals, I still felt like I was spread a little too thin doing the single family. And that's when I decided to just drop single family. And I've been 100% focused on multifamily. Like you mentioned, you know, we're at a little bit over 2,100 doors now, with about 300 or so closing in the next 2 weeks, and then another 500+ under contract. And starting this year off, ready to go, man. You know, last year was a little wrench thrown in in the mix there. But we've got some big goals this year.
Awesome. So how do you apply traction to your business?
Like the EOS?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, that book really helped me around that same time, where I knew I needed to make some moves and to adjust things so that I can gain back more of my time and be able to open more businesses if I wanted to, and just manage the company or companies. And what it did is it really had me look at one, our vision, and then two, our teammates and who I was bringing into the company, and even who was in the company at the time. And one, if they were in the right seat, if they met the culture, and within like 6 months to a year, we made a lot of moves mainly because of traction.
So what does your org chart consist of?
It's the CEO, and then I've got a renovation construction manager, a new construction manager. Then I've got project managers under that, and then support staff. So I'm not in the day-to-day, right? I know what's going on, but from a somewhat high level, which allows me to work more on the path that we're heading on and more of that. So, and then on the investments, on the multifamily investments, a little smaller as far as the team, but I'm taking the same approach. So I'm the CEO there as well. And then we're starting to add on as we grow, and just filling the different aspects within multifamily. So started with acquisitions and investor relations, looking to probably bring someone on for asset management pretty soon, and just continue to grow.
So how does having an integrated construction company help you with executing the business plan on your deals?
I think it helps on a lot of different ends. I think it starts with the acquisition process, right? It helps us evaluate the deals a little better and feel confident in our CapEx numbers. I think a lot of investors are not really sure on those numbers and what they're putting there, and they kind of just throw something at it. This one's going to be $3,000 per door or whatnot, where we really break it down before we even see the property. So I think it gives us leverage there. And then once we actually get to the point where we're closing on the property and it's time to execute, there's no time wasted. It's by the time we close, we've had a pre-construction meeting. We know exactly what we're doing. Our scope of work is 100% what we're going to do, and we get to work.
Got it. So shifting gears a bit, I've seen you at pretty much every multifamily event recently. So tell us more about how networking has helped you in growing your business.
Yeah. If there's a live event, I'm usually there. Obviously, there hasn't been that many in the past year, but done quite a bit online networking. And it's been huge. It's from the time I decided to do multifamily, I knew that was going to be an important aspect of my success is doing the networking. This is a very team. Like, it takes a lot of partners to take down some of these, especially these larger multifamily deals. So I took it pretty serious, and it's definitely helped with our growth.
All right. So one of the more unique markets that you operate in is South Dakota. So how did you decide on that market?
One of the things we try to do is pinpoint markets that have the fundamentals and possibly have gone a little unnoticed, and the pricing isn't as crazy, and the cap rates aren't as compressed. And I think the fact that I live in Dallas and I've in a really, really hot market for good reason, having to go, it wasn't until I decided to go outside of DFW that we really started growing and finding deals that penciled. So now we try looking for those markets, and we have the criteria that we look for. And then when we find a market like that, we go hard at it. South Dakota was just one of those that was primed for growth. It had all the fundamentals. It very business friendly, and yeah.
Are you doing? You mentioned that you had some deals coming down that you're under contract with. Are you doing 506C, 506B? What kind of structure are you doing on those?
On the two specific ones we have right now, they're 506Bs.
Bs, okay.
Yeah, they're Bs, and I think one of the ones we're working on might be a C, but we haven't decided yet, so I wouldn't be able to really say much about it.
Just curious have you done a 506C?
Yeah, no, we've done several.
How was the transition? Because that's kind of what I always see, people making that transition from B to C, and kind of when to make the jump and kind of what's different. Yeah,
it's you need to have more marketing when it comes to C, right? Obviously, you're going to limit your investors, because they got to be accredited. Not every investor is accredited. So you could have a list of 5,000 investors, but just going C, you might limit that to only 1,000 of those 5,000. I don't know. But so you have to be ready to use your marketing to bring in more leads, more investors. So the reason I decided to do one was I felt like I had done a good job with the marketing and that I could get it out there. On top of that, I was wrapping up a B right around the same time. So I don't know. I just thought it was a good time to try out the C, and it worked pretty well. So we've been kind of mixing it up ever since.
Got it. So do you have like a different strategy other than like when you're looking at a property, deciding whether it fits your, accredited investor list more so than your accredited and non-accredited list? Or like, what kind of decision do you make? Other like when you say you get an asset, it's 100 unit, B class value add or C class value add, like what kind of factors are you thinking of what route you're going to go?
A lot of different things play into that. So one is the size of the raise, depending on how much it is. It's a pretty large raise. I would most likely want to go with a C. If the deal is more heavier on the cash flow, I would see it as a better fit for a B. If it's more, not the cash flow's not quite there, but the total return is, I think there would be more appetite for a C.
Good. This is interesting stuff to kind of see when people make that jump or if they ever do. Because for some reason, for syndicators, it seems to be a big deal, probably much more in their heads than it actually is. And we were talking to Neil Bow a couple of weeks ago, and he was just like, "Stop being a baby and just do it." Kind of. He's like, he's like, "You're just making it more of a thing than it is." He's like, "That's what's limiting. If it's not limiting you already, it's going to very quickly. That's going to be your bottleneck. Is that as you start exhausting kind of your 506B, circle for those sophisticated, non-accredited."
That totally makes sense. So, just picture you have a deal you're raising equity for, and it's a 506B. You've exhausted your contacts. What do you do at that point? That you can't really do much to ramp it up. With a C, you just turn up your marketing.
Yeah, so that's pretty. So it kind of seems like something you have to start early on the marketing. What I mean, like we would have to start, now before we get a deal to start getting out there and ramping up our marketing, like well before we actually have a deal. That way we are kind of like a known presence, like what Duke was saying earlier. Like you've been at every event, you're doing shows like this, and you're putting out a lot of content. I see on like Facebook and things like that. But you're doing all that like well before the actual seed comes along, probably. So when you actually get the deal, it's like, who's this guy out of nowhere, that's all of a sudden, trying to raise money. So I'd imagine you're gonna have some definitely strategic, thought process of ramping up marketing, well before the actual, deal comes along.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I decided to do the first seed because I felt like I had done enough of that already. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Good stuff. Okay. Now I saw on your, I think it was a recent post, I don't remember what it was, that you're doing new build now, like a new multifamily build.
Yes.
Is that in Texas or South Dakota?
No, so we completed one in DFW not too long ago, and then we are now starting on this is a single family development. Okay. It was going to be multifamily, and then we decided there was a very large demand during our due diligence. We saw that there was a very large demand for build to rent single family, so we adjusted. That's the one that we've got that we're getting ready to start on.
Yeah, and I think the post I saw was that you got everything approved, and you're going to start horizontal build out soon, right? Okay, that's the post I saw. It's pretty interesting. I see a lot of people doing a lot more people moving to new build, and a lot of people doing the build to rent model. So it's very interesting. So is that what's the exit strategy on that? Kind of lease them up and then sell it as a portfolio, or just hold on to it in your Elevate portfolio?
Yeah. So, this second, I don't have interest in owning more single family. So my exit plan on this one is to actually just do the horizontal and sell it to someone that's going to do the vertical and keep it or whatever they're going to do with it.
All right. Yeah, we just heard about that. Well, we learned about that strategy on one of our last podcasts with Sam Bates, who's kind of walking through I'm sure you know him as well, walking through the different stages. And he was talking about like the firms that just do the hard work, which is the zoning, the permitting, the horizontal, put a bow on it and, sell it to like DR Horton or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fascinating. Coming from a C-class, value add type education and background where we are coming from, like that's like an entirely new thing to us. And it's very fascinating to be able to literally create value like that out of dirt is
a lot of different phases where you can create value in raw land.
Yeah, all this stuff. It's just exciting to continue to learn, which is a great segue here because I was doing my education background checks not background checks, but my checks for this call on you and your website there, and your book list you have on Elevate under education is pretty awesome. So I don't know if you set that up or whoever on your team set that up. Definitely awesome. Great books there, especially the construction management is why I went there and I found it. And I was like, immediately took all those, put them in my Amazon shopping cart.
Nice.
So thank you for doing all the hard work and building that list. Tons of good books on there. So if anybody listening, it's elevatecig.com. Go to everything on the website's good, but the education is what I found. He has the ebook there, their checklist, and then the recommended books. Very, very good list there. So awesome for putting that together for everybody.
Thanks for the feedback.
All right. So the new build, I was looking at your portfolio as well and kind of switch gears more to like the asset management type stuff and building out what these B and C class value adds look like. And I'm looking at the, what your current portfolio looks like, and they all look really nice. I like kind of very similar to what we're doing, taking these, 70s, sometimes 80s buildings, bringing them into 21st century, modern color schemes, a lot of exterior rebranding, things like that. For those of us that do that kind of asset management, do that business plan on their team, like what I do, are you hiring out like that portion of it, or is that like all in-house as far as like the branding, the color schemes, what the interior and exterior design is going to be? Because I know there's firms, I get bombarded with them all the time on like LinkedIn and things like that, like I'm sure you do too, that do that kind of thing for you, but we just haven't hired it out yet.
Yeah, so we've always done it in-house, but the last couple projects, we gave away the exterior colors. I just didn't want to mess with it anymore. So we brought somebody in to pick the exterior colors. And then I think one of our latest projects, I'm going to go ahead and we're redoing the leasing office, and the interiors are pretty straightforward. I don't think I would bring somebody to do the interiors unless it was like a B plus or
some high end.
Yeah. But the leasing office, and we're going to be knocking out walls and furniture and all that. So yeah, I think I'm going to bring somebody in to do that and the exterior colors again.
Yeah, I think we did it I did exterior renderings on one of our last buildings, and it was just a VA from Upwork. It was fairly a couple $100s, and he did these like 3D, some kind of CAD design renderings, all of our color schemes in, and they were really nice. I was thinking about kind of continue to doing that, but maybe more of like a firm that kind of does the whole wraps it all up, rather than just that one guy that just does the renderings.
Just so you know, for renderings, your contractor should be able to get you renderings from their paint supplier. Yeah, so our paint suppliers give us the renderings, and they'll even send someone out. Either send someone out, or we'll send them pictures, and then we kind of give them the color scheme. Though they're not gonna. I mean, sometimes they'll throw some stuff in there, but yeah, they'll do the renderings.
Nice. Okay, that's good to know. I'm gonna steal that. The other things I saw on your website, you're talking about, going through, what separates, Elevate, from you guys to everybody else. And I was looking at, some of your asset management, strategies. I don't know if you want to talk about a little bit of those. Like, you had very specific things in here that I haven't really seen as far as, asset management, and opportunity ways to extract value, increase NOI. So what's the, Elevate and J&T thing for deals? Like, what's that competitive advantage that you have? I know you had already mentioned J&T gives you a huge competitive advantage because you can build scope of work really fast, which I know not only being accurate is important, but having it quickly. Like for me, I have to hire somebody and it could take them weeks to get all the, the bids and everything to scopes of work to me. And I'm sure they're accurate once I get them. But I'm already, a week behind you, 2 weeks behind you, before we even start, just because you have that in-house on your team. So that is huge that you have that competitive advantage. But I saw just some things on here, it's like, I think you had as like the 1% difference. So I don't know if what kind of stuff you have on that, of just things that worked and things that you guys do on every single property as far as your business plan.
Yeah. I mean, things that just a couple of questions you had in there. Advantage wise, I think speed is huge. The fact that we implement our business plan quickly and interior units, a lot of investors struggle with getting the interior units done quickly. That's usually where you're going to get the most out of, right? Is when you upgrade your unit and you're able to get up to that market rent. So the fact that we have our crews and we're not relying on the on-site maintenance team or anything like that, or unreliable contractors, I think that helps a lot. And then things that we usually do, we're big on exterior paint, new paint scheme. If the property has brick, we're most likely going to paint it. Like we're going to make a dramatic difference on the curb appeal. Usually we're rebranding, all new signage and name, and just really letting the residents and also everybody around know, like, okay, there's a new owner and they're spending money and the place is looking nice. And then that usually grabs attention and drives traffic. And then as long as we're getting those interior units done quickly, we also pay attention to the amenities, right? We want to add amenities that actually make sense to the demographic and the actual residents. We don't just add things to check a box. Like, we want to make sure that that's going to bring us value too. And that's the bulk of it. We also take care of the deferred.
Smart. When I'm looking at here, you have like smart maintenance and smart rubs. And what's one of our, I think, things that we do as well in our group is, leveraging technology to reduce costs and also capture additional income. But you have things on here that I haven't seen before, like smart leak detectors and smart ACs sensors. What are those?
You can put sensors for leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Put different sensors. Water heater sensors that will sense if your water heater is leaking, or if you have a boiler, same thing. And you can also do different sensors that, sorry, what was the other one you mentioned? As far as the electrical, so like the smart rubs. Yeah. So
smart rubs. Yeah. So smart rubs. And we've kind of toyed with that back and forth of, doing, because I know like they have ones like kind of strap on to like meters and things like that,
right.
The third party, but we always end up just doing it in-house because we still haven't found a good, smart system that's worth the fees that they charge for that. So I don't know if maybe you're able to find
you can install them yourselves as well, and you don't have to hire a third party. But then, you got to weigh the cost of installing those versus just installing meter banks. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it does. And those are things that we would implement. It just depends on the property. So, we're looking at closer to an A class now. we're going to be doing the smart locks and thermostats, and those kind of things. And also trying to keep the showings and maintenance, with the smart locks, you can even do, you can have a showing without somebody physically being there. So we're going to do some of those things. But yeah, I take it, that's a blog on the website, or is that listed as like we do that to every property?
Oh, no, I don't know. It's on your website. I was just going down to like the property management differences and the asset management difference.
Because we don't do that on every single property.
Okay. No, yeah, it just has the highlights of your stuff here. So, but yeah, I think that was always good for us. For the rubs, it's like we usually end up always going like a percentage based in-house calculation that we do.
Right. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, you can do it. I can get like an 80% bill back, target it in like 2-3 years, stabilize at 80%. And even though I'm not getting 100, I'm not paying any fees. It took me, 30 minutes in an Excel sheet to kind of build this rub system out. And I haven't found like the justification to do anything more than that yet. Like the smart stuff sounds cool and I'm sure it takes it off your plate. But like you said, the expense of I have to install, 100 of these meters myself, or I go with this third party company and then they end up taking, a large fee for administering it. But I guess once you get up to the higher class assets, is where stuff like that probably starts making a lot more sense, those expenditures. But yeah, for where we're at now, like the C class kind of value added, for me, I was just like, I'll just do 80% in-house, and it usually works. Good stuff. Well, that's kind of all I had. I don't know if you had, what's your favorite thing to do, like on every deal? Like every deal, we talked a lot about like rebranding and the kind of the exterior color schemes and bumping up that curb appeal. So like the neighborhood and the community knows that like changes are happening and, big things happening. So what else, other than that, what else is your kind of favorite thing to do to increase income or increase the NOI?
And besides upgrading the units, I mean, internet's becoming a pretty good one. On the other income, doing like a Gigafy, or there's a couple others where you get a percentage of the internet bill.
That's like a contract. They come install it and then you get kind of like an arbitrage between the difference between what the tenants pay and what they charge.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. We got our guy, negotiating some of those type of contracts. A lot of the properties that we're buying though, they have like these crazy Spectrum or Charter like contracts where we go in, it's like $20-something thousand in free cable, like HBO and everything to the tenants, and they just like free. I'm like, y'all are crazy. Like let's just cut that and do like internet and do a bill back on like an internet, because nobody has cable. Nobody has cable anymore, right? So if we can give them like high quality internet, like what you're doing.
Yeah, that's where it's at now, man.
Yeah,
everybody needs Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but like it's just crazy. Like the last like three properties we've looked at, even like the new ones, Duke, the ones that we just looked at this morning. They just have like 15 to 20 grand in just cable contracts that they're just giving free. And these aren't that big of properties. We're talking like 50 unit, a 60 unit. I'm like, y'all are crazy. Like, I don't think you guys know how much value you're just leaving on the table of just having that that nobody's probably using. But all right, that's all I got. Duke, back over to you.
All right, so here's our fire round. What is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
And other than Traction?
Yeah, I guess we already talked about that.
Yeah, I would say that one, or if you want to go, business-wise, Traction. And man, I just really enjoyed Can't Hurt Me, for more like personal development or just
embracing the suck. Yeah, I got a funny story on that one. I was like, I was listening to that book running, and like I strained my my ACL like when I was running, and like all I hear is him and they're like, stop being a bitch, like suck it up. And I'm just like, oh my god, I'm like crying, like trying to limp home. Yeah, it was funny.
What is your superpower?
It's my superpower. That's a good question. Being able to focus on my goals and kind of manage several things at a time and not lose focus.
And what is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career? Biggest
lesson learned, it kind of ties into what I just said, I guess, is learning to focus. and there's certain ways you can do several things, but you need to know how to focus on certain things at a time and then kind of master those before trying to kind of do it all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because in real estate investing, there's just so many shiny objects out there, right? So pretty much you got to just stay focused and prioritize in order to get anything done. For the busy working professional who's working towards financial freedom, what advice do you have?
Find out where you add the most value, grab onto that, master that. And then if you take that and you bring it to other groups that are at where you want to be, that can easily get you in with them and partner with them. And then you can learn from them, learn and grow.
Would you say it would elevate you to?
I love it. Yes.
Dumb jokes.
Elevate you to the next step. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So how can our audience get in touch with you?
Check out the website that Vincent already mentioned, elevatecig.com. We've got a lot of resources on there. And then if they want to shoot me an email, they can go ahead and do that as well, which is george@elevatecig.com. And it's George with a J, so Jorge, or Jorge, at elevatecig.com. If they mention this podcast, I'll send them over some free content. I've got a bunch of due diligence checklists and questions to ask sponsors, things to look for in a property tour, and a bunch of other items.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you both, man. It's been fun.
Hey, Duke, that was a great show with George there. Talk about how vertical integration helped him scale his company. One thing I thought was huge, and foot stomped it, was that look for the competitive advantage that you have. His company, the J&T, his construction company, is a huge competitive advantage going into these markets and finding out what they can offer and how to do it quicker. His construction company, they can go in and have a full CapEx budget built and everything already done, weeks before their competitors even get to the property. So that is a huge advantage they have. We talked about some of the marketing and branding things that they have done. I looked at some of his past deals, and it's very intentional and strategic process of how they're going to brand it, what the colors are going to go with, the logos and everything. You can see it's very, very intentional. And I'm sure they reap the benefits of that, both with the tenant base there of who they're attracting to the complex. They're probably favorable with the local community of making freshen up the community and neighborhood that they're in. And then also on the exit strategy, having a nice, clean, freshened up exterior property that's, pleasant to walk, has that curb appeal, that great first impression. And you can see that is a well thought out process on his business plan there at Elevate. I like the tips on the asset management that they had and the property management there with, kind of leveraging technology to gain, again, that little bit of edge. And then also, bump the NOI up by doing things like smart metering and things like that, and sensors to identify, leaks, for example, like water heaters, ACs, things like that, before they become big problems. So you can actually get sensors that will alert you before you have like a big, catastrophic, pipe leak or something like that. Also, like the, we're talking about the 506B, 506C. This is a conversation that we've had internally, a few times now, more than a few times, of when to make that jump to 506C. He's doing everything right. Starts with marketing first, branding himself, his company, as leaders in the market, building up that investor base, getting that credibility up, that omnipresence up, going to all the shows, events, networking like crazy. So when you make that jump to 506C, you have the investor base there, which is very important as well. Also, the book list. Do not sleep on that book list. It's a great list, very comprehensive. For me personally, the construction list that they put together is a great list. I immediately took that whole list once we started getting interested in possibly doing a new development in the next 2 years. Found that list, put it in my Amazon shopping cart, and excited to educate that way. And yeah, lots of value extracted from this episode for us and our listeners. So Good stuff.
And if you're interested in connecting with us, go to tricityequity.com to learn more. To connect with like-minded investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and more. If you found value in this podcast, please subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you know anyone who might resonate with today's podcast, please share the episode with them. See you next time.